Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Carla and today I'm doing a Stitch With Me video for you on my Riverwalk Charm project. This is a Heaven and Earth design which I started probably around 2019, possibly to 2020, and I'm working 10 stitch on 25 count even weave. So it's going to be a relaxing half an hour for me, I hope, and hopefully a relaxing time for you if you're watching, and thank you again for spending some time with me. So first of all, well, I'm out here in my beautiful living room, which is a new house which we moved to last year. Here you can see my gorgeous Victorian room, and it's so cozy and so lovely, and even though it's not very sunny today, it's a really cozy place to sit in a corner and do some stitching. So I'm going to start on doing my diagonal, which is what I like to do. I love doing the diagonals. I seem to be kind of really hooked on the diagonal lately. That hasn't changed for a while. It's quite amazing how, you know, sometimes we can chop and change when it comes to techniques, but there's no rhyme or reason as to how or when or why. It just seems to be one of those very random things. But anyway, so do you know what? I'm really pleased with the amount of progress that I have got on this chart. It is just because it's such a big chart and it's so rare to see the progress. When you actually do see a big chunk of it, you know, after a good while, it really, you know, it gives you that sort of motivation to keep on going with it. So I'm really pleased with, you know, the progress that I'm getting done on this one. And yeah, so I've sort of been plugging away at it bit by bit, you know, perhaps not every day, but at least 3 to 4 times a week this one comes out. So I can't say that I've been lazy with this particular one. It's been more or less the highest focus piece that I have, and because of that reason, because I've made it a sort of focus piece, I've been able to get so much done on it. Even if I just pulled it out for 100 stitches, 150 stitches, I think a couple of times I pulled it out and did 30 stitches or 40, and then I got called away to do something else. But it meant that when I sat down to do it the following day or the next time, there was already those 30 stitches done. So, you know, never underestimate a few little stitches here and there. I mean, ideally, we'd like to have loads and loads and loads of time to ourselves to stitch, but we have to remember, you know, for the majority of us, there's family, there's pets, there's work, there's all sorts of stuff going on. And it's really hard to just, ignore the rest of the world and stitch. You know, maybe when we retire, or for those of us who are retired and do actually spend a lot of time stitching, you probably find it very relaxing. Very nice to just, you know, be able to just pick whatever it is you want to stitch and sit down and not be pestered about stuff. So yeah, let's see how much I can get done. Probably not a huge amount because the diagonal is particularly slow, and I am slower when I'm recording. I'm also slower when I am doing diagonals anyway because I'm doing row by row, but I'm not strictly doing row by row. I do snake down a little bit with one color if it's possible, if there's not too many threads in the way. I've kind of got so used to handling these threads now. People say to me, how can you stand all these threads? I'm like, do you know what? It just feels too bare and empty when there's no threads hanging there. That's just what I've got used to doing. And I'm just, you know, once you've practiced doing something for a long time, it just becomes second nature. So even though some of you might think it looks really slow and boring, it's actually quite relaxing because I'm just going it's like walking down a woody path and just taking in all the trees left to right as you go through, you know, this beautiful scenic view. And that's it. It's just really, really quite relaxing. There's no pressure to go faster. There's no pressure to do anything. I mean, some of the time I'm watching television as well, so it almost grinds it to a halt sometimes, especially if whatever I'm watching is really exciting or interesting. Then I realize I've been not stitching for 30 minutes or even an hour. So yeah, but I mean, I don't feel like I need to be rushing anything in particular. So yeah, it's good to be stitching at your pace is what I always say. So let's see, what news do I have for you all? It feels like the days and the weeks are running away, and when I want to come on and say something, I don't get the chance to record to be able to come on and say something. I feel like I've got all these things at the back of my head. Oh, I want to go and do a video so I can tell everybody this and tell everybody that. And then, another few days pass, and then you think, oh, I've lost the chance now, and I've forgotten whatever it is I wanted to say. But there hasn't been a lot going on, and there has been stuff going on. It's one of those things just kind of flow through life. And okay, so let's see what some of the things that have been going on recently. My eldest son, who doesn't live in Scotland, came to visit us over the long weekend, and so he's never lived in Scotland. So I suppose I'm going to have to explain how that's come about now, because it's a bit confusing. So my husband and my youngest son moved to Scotland about 6 years ago, and my eldest son, who was in his mid-20s or late 20s, decided to stay behind. We used to live in the Rock of Gibraltar, and I think most people know where that is, but I'm surprised some people don't know where that is. It's at the very southern point of Spain. It's a rock, and it's a British colony. So I've lived there for many, many years with my family, but when we came to Scotland with my youngest son, my eldest son was already settled. He already had his own place to live. He didn't want to uproot himself, which is fine. So we came over here, my husband and my youngest son, and we started a new life in Edinburgh, which, by the way, is a very gorgeous city, very beautiful city. And it was a real sort of clash to come from a really hot climate, because a lot of you know what really hot climates are like, especially the humid ones, to a country that is, at the most part, drizzly, overcast. But I set my mind coming here to be prepared about what it was going to be like, what I was facing. So there was no expectations of bringing out my bikini or swimming costume and my towel and going down to the beach every day. That was not the expectation. So you kind of have to fit in with the culture, with the way people live here. So I did what all Scots do, and I got myself a great big shaggy coat with a great big hood, and to make sure that I was always, warm and I wasn't going to get wet every time I went out. And yeah, I started using umbrellas, and I realised that a true Scot doesn't use umbrellas. They're just too hardy. We go out in big, fluffy Alaskan coats, and that seems to be what everybody does. So you kind of learn after a while that that's the best thing for you to do as well. So anyway, let's fast forward a bit. Settling into Scotland was lovely, lots to do and see. And so then my eldest son, decided to pay a visit. He's been a couple of times before, but he decided to pay a visit this time with his girlfriend, who I'd never met. So that was interesting. So she was lovely, and they both came, and that was, a new thing for everybody. And we all went out, and we all went to get a bite to eat. And it was really lovely to see my eldest son and my youngest son connecting again, although they talk all the time, as you do on the internet. But it was lovely to see them together. It brought a tear to my eye, because I do kind of miss my eldest son quite a lot. I actually realised how much I'd missed him when I saw him, which is very, very, wasn't what I expected. So even though it was a happy occasion, and we were all having fun, and we were all going around together and enjoying ourselves, when he left, I really sort of fell apart a little bit, and I just cried and cried and cried, a lot more than I'd expected to. Actually, a lot more than I did the last time he left. And I think as the years go by, those gaps in between when you don't see somebody for a while, these gaps that you have of not seeing them, they just add up and add up and add up, and you think, he's another 6 years older than when I left him, and I'm another 6 years older than when I left, and it just sort of hits you, this realization that you are, your time that you have is all just going, it's just rushing past you like a speed train. And all those days and hours that you could have been with somebody, you're not with them. So I really appreciate now the time that I do get with him. And when I go there to visit, I just make sure that I appreciate that time, because it's kind of gotten rare. But what I am grateful for is that he's happy and we're happy and everybody's settled and happy. And that's really, what more can you wish for? Everybody's happy. But yeah, being apart from somebody that you love, especially a child, can be quite a painful thing to go through. But he's so happy. He's so happy with his girlfriend. He's got a lovely place to live. He's bought his own place and they're getting on fabulous. And who am I to, interfere with any of that? So I've got a feeling there could be wedding bells in at some point down the line. So there could be a wedding I might have to go back to. Who knows? Anyway, that was the one thing. So he came and spent time with us. So the other more niggling issue that I've had for a while is this sciatica. Goodness grief. I've never known anything quite so irritating before. So I've got like this sciatica problem down my left side, and it had been driving me a bit crazy for a while. So, initially you just kind of ignore it and try to get on with your life, whatever. And eventually it's demanding your attention. It's saying to you, come on, you've got to do something about this. You can't just sit there and ignore it and keep taking painkillers. It's not going to go away. So I'd gone down to the doctor, I think it was in January, and I had, complained as you do bitterly about the pain. Give me some exercises, give me whatever it is you need to do. So they did all the usual tests, etc., etc. Then I got referred to physiotherapy, which I wasn't sure exactly how effective that was going to be, whether that was going to be helpful, whether that was going to be a waste of time. But I'll tell you, waiting lists are pretty long on the National Health Service in the UK. You can be waiting up to a year for treatments, depending on what kind of treatment you need. Obviously, if you need something urgent, you're not going to be waiting up to a year. But it is free. It's free healthcare. And fortunately, I didn't have to wait too long. I only had to wait for, I think it was a month. So I actually went down yesterday to my first appointment, physiotherapy appointment. I didn't know what to expect. I was really nervous. It said something on my form. I had to fill out a form about, severities of pain. It's like checkbox thing where they're asking you lots of questions. And then it said you might be asked to wear a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. And I said, that's never happening. I haven't worn a pair of shorts since I was like 8 years old. So, that's not going to happen. I would be far too anxious to put on a pair of shorts. I'm a little bit chubby and it's just not going to happen. So I went down there with this fierce determination of just saying, forget it. If this is what I have to wear, I'm going home. But it wasn't like that at all. So I think the forms that they give you are really outdated, and whatever they don't update them. So they might say something like, in 10 years time, you'll be getting these forms to fill out, and it'll still be saying, do you have COVID? Wear your mask. And COVID will be just like a distant memory. It'll be something else that would have come and gone. They just are not very good at updating their information when they send you letters. So anyway, I went down, and the loveliest lady was treating me. She came in and did a quick examination, and she kind of talked me through different ways to manage sciatica pain, and different ways, how am I sitting, how long do I stand around for, how much walking do I do each day. Now, I do actually do quite a bit of walking, and I never actually know whether it's aggravating me or whether it's actually helping, but I'm thinking it's more probably aggravating. So she was really helpful in coming up with, the whole clear picture of what I'm doing wrong, because it hadn't occurred to me that on my good days, I completely go crazy and I go walking for an hour and a half, 2 hours, which you might think is much. But when you've got pain, it's actually, or you've got an issue with your hip or your leg, it's actually quite a lot. So she's like, well, what I think you're doing is I think you're doing too much on the good days, which giving you real severe pain when you come down from it. And then on the bad days, you're kind of knocked out, which is pretty true. On the bad days, I'm just sitting on the sofa stitching, don't want to know anything, don't want to speak to anyone, don't want to go outside, don't want to do anything until the pain's gone. So it's really kind of from one extreme to the other. So I kind of looked at her and said, you know what, this wouldn't even have occurred to me had we not sat here and gone through all of this and it be facing me so clearly. You know, the clarity of what I'm actually doing makes so much sense. I'm being extremely sporty when I'm feeling good, and I'm being extremely down and out when I'm not being good. So we kind of have to make those extremes come together, so we've got more of a middle ground and maybe try to balance things a bit. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of keeping a diary. So this is actually going to impact a bit of my stitching time, because what I think I need to do, or what she'd suggested and I totally agreed with, is not to be sitting down for 4 or 5 hours stitching, you know, at any point, but always to be a little bit mobile in between. So even if it means 10-minute walk, a little bit of very gentle movements in between, even on the days when I am actually having a flare-up of pain, I can sort of deal with it a bit better if I'm not just sitting down the whole time, which actually does put pressure on the sciatic nerve. So yeah, I don't want to get into too medical explanations and all that kind of stuff, but it was really helpful, and I got a printout of some exercises that were helpful, which she asked me to do. And I'm kind of getting to that age where I feel a bit you know, okay, I might feel young in my head somewhere, but my body's not keeping up really. So when I'm asked to like lie down, lift my legs in the air and all that stuff, it kind of makes me really anxious. Like I was lying on this kind of flat bed and I was so worried I was going to roll off and land on the floor. Obviously that didn't happen, but in my head I could see myself just kind of, you know, doing some embarrassing things. I really, really have got a terrible sort of sense of humour. Anyway, nothing tremendously embarrassing happened, thank goodness. And yeah, so she helped me to go through these exercises and everything. I came back feeling really bright because I was actually dreading it in so many ways. I was so dreading anything to do with going to be examined or any kind of medical stuff. I feel like, look, I don't look like I did when I was 25. I've got all sorts of scars, all sorts of things on my body which I don't want anyone to see. I think all of us have got these bits about ourselves which we absolutely hate, and we actually don't want anybody to see, and we cover them up, cover ourselves up. And the older you get, the more sort of, I don't know, self-conscious about showing, you know, parts of your body, your legs, whatever it is that you have, you know, difficulties with. And I said to my husband, I just don't feel comfortable any longer, you know, just going and like sort of in a pair of shorts. But thank goodness they never asked me to wear shorts. I clearly would never have agreed to that, right? I was well prepared to just shove the paperwork at them and say, right, I'm off, bye. I'll just deal with the pain myself. But no, they're really nice and they're really helpful, thank goodness. Because one thing you don't need when you're in pain and you've got issues, and they have to kind of prod you around in places which are very personal. And as women, we know full well how much prodding doctors need to do and stuff, because we need to be examined. So we have to be comfortable with it. We've got to learn to accept that it's just a part of life. So yeah, we can't completely hide ourselves forever. There's going to be a time when doctors and nurses and, you know, therapists and things are going to have to look and see in areas where you might be suffering. So I'm kind of glad that I went down, because I wanted to cancel the appointment because I was feeling, apart from feeling on a complete downer because my son had just left, there's always that empty space when someone leaves, and a radio silence, that like the house is silent. Like you wouldn't, it was nothing like it was before they arrived, but when they go, it really resonates. The silence resonates. How does that make sense? And it takes a few days to kind of spring back into your normality. So yeah, you feel that gap. So that's kind of where I was yesterday. So I really was not in the mood to go down and start doing physio exercises and talking about things that I didn't want to be talking about. I just kind of wanted to stay at home and get over, the fact that my son had gone back home, which I knew I would, but I wasn't prepared for the level of sadness that I felt. So anyway, that's that one, and that's what's happened the most recently. There's nothing much else recently. The weather has been completely awful. It's been drab. I mean, I know I say it as if I'd expected it to be sunny or something, but I really hadn't. We knew that the long weekend was going to be overcast. It wasn't stormy, it wasn't hugely rainy, it was just really dark and drizzly the whole time. So it didn't actually improve my mood like I hoped it would. So I got to do my video, which I'm pleased about, my previous video before this one, which was the April update, and I was really happy to get that one done because I thought I might miss my chance if it got to the end of the month and I still was sort of procrastinating a little bit. But yeah, it sort of did still fall straight into the whole medical appointment and my son being here, so I didn't know exactly when I was going to be able to do it, but I managed to find a slot, which is a good thing. So talking about the stitching now, I've been sort of still working. If you didn't see my update video, I'll just quickly run over that. I think still sort of working on the same projects that I had been working on in the last while. I kind of made this particular piece my focus piece, and for me that was just so that I was able to have something consistently being worked on, and then everything else I just kind of do around it. So I kind of look at it like Riverwalk Charm is the sun, and all my other whips are the ones rotating around, like the other planets going around the sun. So I occasionally grab them whenever I fancy. That's totally whenever I feel like picking whichever. There's no set goal for any of them, I don't think. The Thomas Kincaid I would have liked to finish the end of the year. In fact, I just realised last night that there is a good chance I can finish my Thomas Kincaid mini, Home for the Holidays. There's a good chance I can finish that one by the end of the year, because I've just realised last night that I'm at 41%, and I had tentatively thought about finishing it by December. So we haven't even reached 6 months in the year. So if I can get to 50%, I've got loads of time basically to get to 50%. Not even reached half the year yet, have we? Still got 2 months to go. So I think I'm totally on track for that, which I didn't think I was. So yeah, 2 months I've got to get another 10%, which is easy, because I think there's only something like 80,000. There was only 80,000 stitches to begin with, and I think I've done about 40. So yeah, that was a really nice realization. And the other ones are just sort of rotating that. So I did that little new start, which was called the Ornament Butterfly by Heaven and Earth Designs, which is really pretty and sweet. And I just thought, I fancy doing a round one because everything I do is square. So why not just pick up a round whip and go with that? So I did have a good look at many of them. My goodness, I am so tempted every time I go into the Heaven and Earth Design page and I see the new releases, or I see, what some other people post, what they've done, what they've managed to achieve, etc. It so pulls you in. But then you realize you get this like knock on the head that says, you're not going to be able to do it. You just don't have the time to do them all. Which is really deflating because you kind of want to. And I'm trying to be sensible about how many I can actually manage without being overwhelmed, because I like to see progress. So for me as a stitcher, I like to be consistent really in a chosen few, and then if I get the occasional crazy moment, I'll go with that. I'm allowed to get an occasional crazy moment. I think we all are. Life's too short. But trying to find that balance in your life of what suits you can take ages. It really can take a long time to figure out what works for me, because you have to put your lifestyle into consideration. You have to put your character even, because some people are just so spontaneous and they're so too excitable to be doing the one monogamous whip. They like to have lots of them and be swapping them around all the time. So that's a certain character that likes that. And I'm sort of more fairly quiet and consistent, and I like to, I'm a deep thinker. So I'd sit there for a while and think about things and the outcome of things and whether things are working or not working. So there's lots of thoughts going into everything I do. So what else is there? Okay, so we've had lots of holidays, lots of bank holidays, and my son had just had 4 days in a row. So I think he was quite ready to go back to school today. And on Saturday, we've got the King's Coronation. Now, I don't think there's anywhere in the world who hasn't heard about this happening. Possibly some really, really far off country. But for the most part, I think most of you are aware that we have King Charles' coronation coming up in a couple of days. And I don't actually know what's going to be happening here in Scotland, because I haven't seen anything really. I've been outside and not really seen any banners or any leaflets or anything like that. So even though Scotland's part of the UK, I don't know whether they're quite as extrovert about it as people down in the south. So I'm assuming I did live for a number of years just outside London, and I can just imagine what that looks like now with all the flags flying and people getting excited to go to the coronation event, which is being held, I think, at Buckingham Palace. And yeah, so it's going to be really crazy busy, loads of people camped outside overnight and all that sort of thing. That is really not my thing. I mean, I respect the event and what's happening, and I totally think it's fantastic, but I just cannot do massive crowds. I just can't do the standing there, apart from the fact that I do get pain in my back, but regardless, I just cannot do the whole standing around for hours, walking around. Even standing in one spot for 15 minutes drives me crazy. I've got to either go and sit down somewhere or get my own little space. I really do like my own little space. And I've realised that more and more as the years have gone by. When I was younger, I used to think that I was just a strange person, that I just was very antisociable, which I'm not. I'm not at all antisociable, but I do like, my private space around me. I don't like to be jostled and shoved and pushed and all that stuff. I just don't think I could deal with it, and I think my husband's exactly the same as me. So we wouldn't be the type of people that would be there screaming our heads off at this type of event. Although that doesn't mean we don't appreciate it. Quite happy to sit down with a cup of tea and watch it on television, with a good English cup of tea, maybe Earl Grey. And all due respect, fantastic occasion, but just not something that I could go and participate in a very, very rowdy and potentially dangerous event. I mean, I've heard in the news today that there's been shots fired into the gates of Buckingham Palace, which is pretty scary, right? I mean, I wouldn't actually want to take my son to something that has some potential threats from protesters or just anti-monarchists, whatever is going on. It would just make me very on edge, very uneasy, and I could just as well watch it from my TV, to be honest. I know it's not the same ambience, but for comfort's sake, it wouldn't be something I'd go to. However, having said that, if it's not too busy on the Saturday here in Scotland, and I am in a major city as well, so I'm assuming that it will be for some reason. I think we're going to see that all the bars are packed and all the cafes are going to be packed. If I can take a walk around the park and just maybe up the high street and have a look and see just how busy it is, I might do that. I mean, I might find that the all the stores are empty because everybody's in bars and stuff and cafes. So I might stroll around a clothing store or something, or a home store, just because it's going to be nice and quiet because nobody's going to be thinking about shopping on a day of Coronation. So that's just me. You see, I'm just the weirdo that will go off on her own and do her own thing, and not be part of the normal club, not be part of the club where everybody else is gathered into crowds. I don't do the crowds. I just want to be doing my own thing. So that's probably, you'll find me on the other side of the fence. And it's not because I'm truly afraid or anything. I just feel like I like to just have my space. I think that's basically what it boils down to. So let's see, with all that yakking, I'd probably forgotten to say things that I really wanted to say, but never mind. It's, sometimes it's nicer just to go with the flow and say what's at the front of your mind rather than trying to dig at the back of your mind and there being nothing but silences all the way through because you can't remember. I'll be coming back again, obviously, and next time I will say anything else that's remotely important. But just going to do a few more stitches, and if you've reached this far, good for you. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. I don't like listening to my ramblings. My husband would give you an honorary badge if he knew you got to the end of this video. So I just really wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone, because at times when I felt really low, I know the floss tube community is always there, and I know that the community is constantly shifting and changing, and some people are dropping out and many new people are coming in, but it's always so vibrant and always so indulgent and caring, and people are always so open and willing to help. And I think that's what really attracts me about this community, and I feel like I can fall back here in a heap sometimes, but I can fall back here when things are a little bit unsteady in my own life, or I'm feeling like I need a little bit of friendship or to reach out. I know that I can reach out here. I don't feel afraid to do that any longer. I did initially. I was very wary and scared because I'm really not a very openly gregarious person or extroverted in any way. But being able to, after a while, I've kind of gotten used to all the lovely people that comment on my videos, and I've gotten used to the style of, getting used to how my videos would go, and just kind of settling into the whole floss tube thing, getting to know the community and everything. Everyone is so inviting and friendly and nice. For the most part, you do get the odd one, but you'll get that anywhere. But majority of people here are just so kind, and I just wanted to kind of express that in a way without sounding too emotional or too soppy about it. I just wanted to basically say thank you. That's all, really, for always kind of being there, and that it's nice to have that constancy, especially when life is such a roller coaster, because it's a roller coaster of emotions, and I think about, I'm a great thinker. I think about things a lot, and I think I should have called my channel Musings or something. Because I'm always thinking about different things and how to express myself, and but I'm hoping that I express myself well enough, and I think I do, because many of you come back to listen and to join in with or follow what I'm doing, so I kind of get the impression that things are good, and for that I feel accomplished, or I feel like I'm doing a good thing. And it's kind of just a nice thing to have in life. It's nice to have friendship, even if it is through the internet, in the virtual world. It doesn't matter. It's there. It exists in its own form. So that's not really something to be knocked, but to be grateful for and not really taken for granted. So just thank you. Thank you so much. And I think I would also like to do a few more Stitch With Me's. So if you are interested in more of my ramblings, I will come back. and do some more Stitch with Me's. It does take me a few hours on the setting up and the recording and the talking, but I think it's worth it because you kind of feel like you've connected. And sometimes lately, especially since I moved house last year, I kind of feel I lost a bit of a connection because I got so unsettled. I moved from one house to another, and it took a lot of getting used to. Everything took a lot of getting used to for me. It takes me a while to make a space my own, and I feel like I have kind of made this space my own, although I think I'm not always alone. I think there's possibly some spirits around here. This building was built in 1886 or something thereabouts. So yeah, there would have been the Victorian people living in this building. So I'm always very as a sensitive person, I do very strongly get vibes and things, but I tend to just try to avoid them because I'm also a bit of a scaredy cat, so the two things don't go together. So I'm going to leave it there for now, my friends, and when I come back next time, I don't know which one I'm going to stitch, but maybe I'll just leave that as a surprise and just be a bit more spontaneous. But if you feel like you'd like to see me stitch on any of the ones that I'm currently doing, I thought maybe I could get Tree of Life out for a little while because that one is still kind of in the picture. So the only ones I have in the picture at the moment, and I can list them to you, are Home for the Holidays, Thomas Kincaid, Sad Fairy, this Riverwalk Charm. Then I've got The Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. Have I missed anything out? I've still got Tree of Life somewhere stuck in a bag. The new butterfly ornament that I'm doing. I think those are the ones that are currently in the picture at the moment. So if you fancy seeing any of those in a Stitch with Me, let me know. I do need to go back and do a bit more of the Fruits of Plenty because I kind of missed out on my Sunday session because of my son being around. So that's it from me. So I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week and the weekend. Enjoy it. And if you are celebrating the King's coronation some way, let me know what you're doing because I'd be interested to hear. And if you're just stitching, also let me know what you're stitching because I also love to hear about that as well. So I'll let you get on and just want to say thanks very much. Have a wonderful week and take care of yourselves, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye.